was all of our all our speakers here.
Tennessee Caregiver Association, Miss Jessie Peggs.
That's me. It's Jessica.
Jessica, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
No problem.
Reginald Alexander, Mid-South Food Bank.
Mary Catherine Rogers. Okay. Okay. Oh yes. Okay, that's our interpreter. See Mr. Alexander. I don't see Cordell, but if he
Anybody here for staff and children?
okay, don't see him. If he shows up, we will add him. I know Black clergy won't be here.
So everything else we
Oh, you a Black clergy? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. They're not speaking. Okay,
So,
okay.
Dr. Turner's not coming.
He ain't coming.
No, I think they told us yesterday he wasn't coming, but she's representing
And we
now.
have a client that's here that's gonna,
Okay.
a recipient. They said TJC, but she's not here, but we have one here that
Okay.
receives, the benefits that how it might affect her. She just walked in. I don't know where she's.
Okay, okay.
So many members of the media, you all ready?
You all ready?
Hang, hang on 1 second.
Please make sure your mobile devices are off or turned down on silent. She's coming. Just 1 second. Hold on.
Okay.
You ready, Jake?
Yeah, she's coming.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us here this morning. I am Gloria J. Sweetlove. I'm president of the Tennessee NAACP and on the National Board of Directors for the National NAACP. This morning, we've come together because it's important to protect health care and SNAP funding. Thank you for joining us today to work to try to protect Medicaid and SNAP benefits. This morning, we are sounding the alarm on the proposed cuts to the federal budget that would cripple these programs and bring devastation to hundreds of thousands of Americans. The goal of this press conference is to raise public awareness to the dangers to health and nutritional safety net posed by the pending budget bill that is slated for a vote in the U.S. Senate on June 19th. Respected nonprofits and advocacy organizations will and have been carrying the message. The Tennessee Justice Center is the organizing person that's working with us as our other partners here across Tennessee. We are asking that you contact your senator today. All right? We are concerned that the proposed cuts to Medicaid and SNAP will decimate our communities. We're calling on elected officials to protect Medicaid and SNAP funding for Tennessee. The Senate is expected to vote on the proposed cuts before the end of June, so please call today. Ask your neighbors, your cousins, your friends, the folks you shop with, the folks you go to church with, the folks you meet on the street. Ask them to call their senator. It has never been more important. Funding to support Medicaid and SNAP is essential to the future of Tennessee families. Nearly 1.5 million Tennesseans rely on Medicaid for health coverage. This includes 1/2 of all the children in our state. Medicaid helps children thrive in school, supports care for serious conditions like cancer and heart disease, and ensures that families can access preventive care before emergencies arrive. SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, provides nutritional support for low-income families, helping nearly 280,000 children in Tennessee grow, learn, and succeed. SNAP not only improves healthcare outcomes, but also plays a key role in reducing child hunger and supporting working parents who are struggling to make ends meet. The survival of Tennessee hospitals is also at stake here, especially those in rural areas. These cuts would further strain hospitals who are already struggling to keep their doors open. Having to drive 50 miles to reach a hospital is a reality for me and many other Tennesseans, from Memphis to Kingsport, from Clarksville to Chattanooga, and places in between. We cannot live without health care in rural America. Cuts to SNAP would increase food insecurity across the state, leaving schools, food banks, and local governments to fill the gap. We are asking that each of you get involved. Don't tell somebody, text somebody, call somebody, make the announcement in your churches and in your other community areas. It is important that we get involved like never before. Amen. We must advocate for people. Many people do not have any idea what will happen when this change is put forward. We must, ladies and gentlemen, we must do it, and we must tell somebody else. Ask your senators to vote against the spending cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. Speaking with us today will be Ms. Jessica Peggs, Caregiver Ambassador for Tennessee Caregiver Coalition, Ms. Mary Catherine Rogers, Bridges for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Mr. Reginald Alexander from Mid-South Food Bank, and we will have TJC Client and Mother of the Year. So I ask that they come and speak in that order, and they have from 3 to 4 minutes. Okay. Are they coming? Oh, there you are.
Hello, my name is Jessica Peggs. That's spelled Jessica, P as in Paul, EGGS. And I'm the Memphis ambassador for the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition. I have a 12-year-old son, Isaiah. He has multiple disabilities. Even though I work full-time, we rely on his Katie Beckett Medicaid waiver to cover his medical expenses that I would not be able to afford. His disability requires him to need around-the-clock care that I am responsible for. I can recall the day when I almost quit my career for 10 years because I could not find a nurse for him after searching for many months. My world was turned upside down because I wanted to work. I invested in my career with several degrees. This is one story that multiple caregivers can relate to, but unfortunately, everyone does not have a success story like mine. I am here to speak on behalf of the more than 1 million caregivers across Tennessee, people who are caring for children with disabilities, aging parents, spouses with serious illnesses, and loved ones recovering from injury or that need end-of-life care. Last week, our director, Dr. Megan Swan, participated in a Nashville press conference such as this one, and she provided some valuable points that I would like to share with you today. She says, in the country, 53 million Americans provide unpaid care, contributing to an estimated $600 billion in essential labor every year. Being a caregiver is a choice that we choose out of love. It is the morally right thing to do, yes, but it is also unpaid labor. Myself and other caregivers are doing this work while sacrificing our own income, careers, and even their homes. Dr. Swam also says that caregiving is the invisible infrastructure holding our healthcare system together, and it is under attack. Family caregiving is a nonstop job with no sick days, no holidays, and no overtime. As this bill stands, able-bodied Americans will be required to work. Nearly 30% of Medicaid enrollees aged 19 through 64 are not working, but 12% of them are not working because they're caregivers. If we care about families, if we care about older adults, if we care about people with disabilities, why are caregivers going to be forced to provide health care and employment? We must reject these cuts. We must invest in caregiving supports that keeps families together and healthcare costs down. We must ensure that caregivers are protected and not punished. As I close today, I encourage each one of you to reach out to your senators and ask them to protect Medicaid and SNAP. That equals protecting caregivers and their loved ones to prevent institutionalized care. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent. Next.
Good morning. My name is Mary Catherine Rogers. I am the Empowerment Coordinator for Bridges for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Our office here in Memphis, Tennessee is Bridges West. Jack is a client of Bridges for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Jack is 40 years old, smart, capable. He wants to work with computers, but mostly he wants to work. He seeks employment constantly, trying to find positions in computers, retail, law enforcement, and more. Many potential employers dismiss Jack because he's deaf. The job he finds are in warehouses and janitorial companies. It is honest work, but none of them offer full-time employment or living wages, so Jack is independent on Medicaid to have health insurance. Sophie is a 20-year-old woman who is deaf. Due to her complex lifelong medical condition, she uses a wheelchair. She's bright and curious, quick to smile, laugh, eager to join in whatever is going on. What happens to Sophie without Medicaid? How does she see the doctor she needs and give lifelong, life-saving treatments and medications that are necessary? Jess is a 24-year-old woman who is hard of hearing and has autism and intellectual disabilities. She is blessed with a mother who is a strong advocate and is engaged in educational and work training programs to help her have a future. Recently, Jess started feeling unwell, and a day later, she almost completely stopped communicating, unable to answer even basic questions. At the hospital, her blood sugar was over 500. She had pneumonia, and her oxygen was in the 80s. In recent weeks, she had to learn to give herself insulin shots to manage her newly diagnosed diabetes. But without Medicaid, Jess wouldn't still be with us because she wouldn't be able to afford the medical care necessary. Jack, Sophie, and Jess are not lazy. They are not a waste. And they are not a fraud. They are human beings, citizens, neighbors, and for people of faith, life created in the image of God. Before critical life-saving and life-giving resources are cut or taken away, let's be sure we know exactly who we believe doesn't deserve health care or food. In the meantime, let's do our utmost least of these and love our neighbors as ourselves. Thank you.
Great. It's you now. It's you.
What's me? Okay, Reginald Alexander, Reginald, last name Alexander, Government Relations with Mid-South Food Bank. Good afternoon. Good morning. Food, like air and water, is essential to life. Having enough fresh, nutritious food is essential to a healthy, productive life. Healthy, productive people are essential for a healthy, productive society. 1.1 million people in the state of Tennessee are food insecure, meaning they don't have enough to eat and in many cases don't know where they're going to get their next meal from. In 2024, Mid-South Food Bank provided 22 million pounds of food to the 12 counties that we distribute food to in Tennessee, which is about 17 or so % of the food insecure number for the whole entire state. Food and access to it, everything else stems from this operational baseline. If you don't have enough food, it's harder to compete on a day-to-day basis. It's harder to learn in school, and it's harder to stay healthy. However, life struggles aren't limited to only food insecurity or only healthcare struggles. Sometimes both of them happen at the same time. And it's for that reason why cuts to SNAP and cuts to Medicaid would be especially hard at this time and be even more tragic. With the costs of food and healthcare already out of reach for many, families need these programs now more than ever. Cuts in funding for SNAP and Medicaid will take away food and affordable health care from seniors, children, families, and veterans at a time where the food insecurity rate is at 50 million in the country. That's a higher than the last decade that it's been. Mid-South Food Bank held SNAP listening sessions at our headquarters. We wanted to know what people who were receiving SNAP were experiencing and what they were going through. So we asked them various questions, one of which was, how would a lack of SNAP benefits impact your life? And here's what we heard from one of the recipients. It would mean making hard decisions about how I would live. Would I be in the dark? Would I have a plate of food on my table? Having SNAP means I don't have to make those hard decisions and I can still have a pretty good life and have a healthy lifestyle even with the things I'm going through. Now hold on to that for a second, because we talked to her a little bit further, and after talking to her, we learned that in addition to dealing with food insecurity issues, she also had several health care issues. So this is somebody that's juggling both things at the same time, and the food is obviously necessary. But this is SNAP at its most essential level. It's helping people bridge the food insecurity gap and ensure they have enough food to eat so that they can hopefully meet others' challenges and have a healthier, more productive lifestyle. And it's for this reason that Mid-South Food Bank respectively requests that Congress not pass these cuts to Medicaid and to SNAP. I also want to say that one of the things that people don't speak enough about is the fact that we're dealing with, in many cases, the working poor.
Right.
I think that working is an idea that is pushed, that people need to be working, but the truth of the matter is a lot of people who need Medicaid, a lot of people who need SNAP, they are working.
Yes.
They're working every day. They're just underemployed. They're not making enough to make ends meet. And SNAP and Medicaid allows them to be able to live healthier, to eat. I mean, we're talking about food here. We're not talking about, we're talking about food. Food is essential, as I said at the beginning, and it's very necessary. So we join with everybody here in saying we hope that our elected officials will see clear to not pass these SNAP cuts and these Medicaid cuts. Thank you very much.
Cordell.
Good morning, afternoon. I'm Cardell Orrin, Cardellorrin, Executive Director with Stand for Children Tennessee. We come here to ask the primary question when we come together we should ask. How are the children? And the challenge that we know, and you've heard the data and you've heard the impacts and the information, is that our children are not going to be better off with these cuts. They're going to be worse off. The challenges that we face, we talk about a lot of things in Memphis and Shelby County and across Tennessee: crime, housing, transit, education, economic development, workforce development. All of these things will be ultimately impacted by these cuts that are being made in these areas of food and Medicaid and health care. These are challenges that our families and our children face every day. So as we go through, and what are the consequences of these things? So the consequences are that as we start to think about the chronic absenteeism that we see at high rates in our community, and the end results of that being that our children don't advance in education, or we start to think about families being unhoused or not having housing, not having access to health care. These are things that drive up crime. These are things that impact education. These are things that then we will be held accountable for, both locally at the state level and federal, to say our children aren't achieving. But our children don't have the primary things that they need to achieve. They're trying to take away access to food, access to health care. What do we think will happen to attendance rates when we do these things? What do we think will happen to the academic achievement of our children when they go to school even hungrier, when they go to school unhealthy, when they go to school with their families not sure about where they'll eat the next day? We know what the impact of these things will be, and then they will come and they will tell us that our teachers are failing, our schools are failing, our children are failing, and they are failing us if they allow this to pass. So what we need to say, and we need to say clearly, is that these are measures that we cannot allow to pass, and if they do, the consequences are on them. The impacts, the effects, the things that will happen to our families, our children, our communities are their responsibility. And so as we come together as Memphis and Shelby County, and we know Memphis and Shelby County is at the top of many of the lists around chronic health conditions. And so we know that we will feel it even more so here, when even the small amount of health care that our families, especially in lower incomes, have access to is taken away further. So we join with the folks who are standing here to say, please do not pass these draconian measures, harming our children, our families, with consequences that we can see easily coming down the road if these things happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Cardell.
Good afternoon, everyone. Taranika, want her to come up. She is one of the mothers in our infant mortality program here at the NAACP, and I wanted her, as a recipient of Medicaid and SNAP, to just tell you how this would affect her and her family, her health, and her children's health. And Taranika, if you could just tell them a little bit about your family, your twins that were just born 3 months ago, and them coming early, and then you having your heart condition, how all of this would affect you if these benefits were cut.
Hi, my name's Taranika. I'm a mother of 7 kids, 6 boys, 1 little girl. And I have been in an experience where I couldn't receive stamps when I was 18, and that's when I had my very first child. And so, like, being in that predicament, like, I lost my child in the midst of it because I couldn't physically take care of my child. And, you know, depending on the state and everything that they was going through, that made it, like, hard. And then having 7 kids later and trying to be a mama and trying to work and all of that, like, I have a baby that have juvenile arthritis, leukemia, and no white blood cells. So I know for a fact that I would not be able to afford his stuff without Medicaid or his insurance covering. And I also have 2 kids, like, under the age of 5 that have autistic. And by them being under the age of 5, at the moment, I have to pay for their medicine until the insurance can cover it when they turn to the age of 5. So I know I've been in the predicament of how I feel, and I know if it was to get taken from us, I would know what it feel like. Because even getting it right now, even though it's benefiting me in so many ways, but at some time it don't last always, and we have to turn to these different organizations for a little extra more help. So I don't know too much what to say, but that's like a short example of, like, I would feel 10 times worse than what I'm already experiencing now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to each of these speakers. I hope you heard by the testimony how important it is for us to contact our senators, contact them and let them know that this would be awful for Tennessee, that we have Tennesseans that will not be able to even exist in even nowhere a normal manner if we have Medicaid and SNAP cuts. At this, I want to thank every one of our partners, and all of them didn't speak, for showing up this morning for us and for coming to be able to speak at this press conference. But it does not end here. I said in the beginning, the goal is that we contact our legislators. We must contact these senators immediately and tell somebody else to contact them. You can text them, you can email them, you can call their office. I encourage you to call the office because guess what? They've got somebody there that has to record every time that you call. It's important. At this time, we are complete, and we'll take any questions. Any of our partners will take questions.
Martin Staunton, Fox 13 News. I have a 2-part question. So, worst case scenario, this campaign to stop these cuts is not successful. Are you guys talking about a plan to help people if the federal government does pull back this funding? Is there a plan to deal with that contingency? And what is it?
Well, the thing about it is we are working hard, and we continue to say we must make this work so it doesn't happen. But if it does not work, we will do what we've always done. We will organize advocates across this state and across this nation to make a difference, because that will need to happen. I think, sometimes we're so comfortable with where we are. We forget what it's really like to be without. But it's important. I tell you that things are not well. And sometimes we might live to where we are blessed, to drive up to our 3 or 4 car garage and, and push the button and make sure ring is off and go in and all those things. But please know, there are people all around us that do not have that advantage. We know somebody, my sons always knew if something happened and they were out of work or something came up as an emergency, as a parent, we were able to help. There are some people that have no parent to help. There are parents that are needing help. So what I'm telling you, across this state, make no mistake, I know everybody look good when we are all in the State House and et cetera, and we're talking about all these things, but we are talking about reality. We're talking about what happens, in Memphis, Tennessee. We're talking about what happens in rural West Tennessee and rural Middle Tennessee and rural Upper East Tennessee, where there are more poor folks than we got down here. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the difference that'll make. So that's why it's so important that we call all our senators and let them know. And you know, I encourage you to call the governor's office and tell them we've got this campaign going, and it's important, Governor. You need to say to the folks you got influence on, it is important that we make sure that SNAP and Medicaid continues to happen in Tennessee. Yes, sir.
Lee Smith with the Tri-State Defender. You mentioned voters in East Tennessee, rural parts, more, we'll call them MAGA voters.
Right.
How do you kind of expand this coalition to voters that, we'll just say, the people in power would actually listen to?
We already have done that. You heard us say that we've had press conferences in Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee. We are partnering with people because one thing about it, you know, they say there are no atheists in foxholes. Well, one thing about it, when you're hungry, and one thing about it, when you need to be able to go to an emergency room and there's not a hospital in your rural area, you know, everybody looks alike. So it is important that whoever you are and wherever you are, my dad said you can't call yourself rich unless you sign your own paycheck. So that means it doesn't matter how many enterprises that you have. If you are not independently wealthy without nobody signing your paycheck, and I tell you what, with the cost of medicine, even if you're independent wealthy, you'll be broke after a while. So it is important that we continue to have these benefits here in Tennessee. You heard us say over 1.5 million kids will be affected by this. It is important. Yes.
24. What is your response to, some of, not just the cuts, but obviously you have like some grocery stores and some convenience stores who may try to do fraudulent activities when people are, since you can't, use SNAP benefits for candy or things like that. Like, what do you say to some of these businesses who may try to go over the hump of using Medicaid and SNAP for what it's for?
Well, we talk about fraudulent activities, and we know there are some, but I beg to differ that there are not near as many as sometimes we are making to believe. One of the things we need to make sure of, those individuals that are receiving SNAP, I think they just talked about some legislation that I believe in that where now you can't use it for junk food. I know Arkansas has already passed that. But we're talking about being able to get basic things. We're talking about being able to, to get a piece of meat, get some bread, I'm old school, get some brown beans, get some greens so that you can have something, you can make soup or you can have something to feed your kids. So I think we need to concentrate on, for sure those people are doing it fraudulently. They need to be stopped. They need to not be able to use it anymore. But we're talking about basic stuff now. We're talking about folks being able to eat and people being able to go to the doctor.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Question for the attorney. First of all, if you could spell your name, but also,
Tyranny.
if you had a chance to speak directly to the people who will be voting on this measure, what would you say if they were in this room?
Okay, the spelling of my name is T as in Tiger, ERRINEKA. And what I would say is, like, take advantage of the opportunity because, like she said, some people who live in their lifestyle right now too much don't care how respect the people that's on it. And that's basically it.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for the gentleman with the Mid-South Food Bank. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I don't.
Mr. Alexander.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Food insecurity and food deserts are widespread. I imagine your organization is already taxed. That's kind of going off my first question. Is your organization planning for the worst? I mean, if it's hard to help feed people now, I can't imagine what happens if SNAP is cut. doesn't that put an even stronger burden on your organization to try to get people fed?
It puts a stronger burden on our organization, but our organization will continue to do what we've always done. When COVID happened, you know, we had a lot of burdens put on us that we weren't expecting. We just came out of left field. Fortunately, we did have some ARPA funding that helped us through that period of time, but it was a case where we still had to marshal up a lot of physical resources and man hours to get through that. So we'll continue to do what we've always done, and that is step up to the plate, stand in the gap, and help as many people as we're able to. That also goes into volunteers, the number of volunteers we get, the number of donations we get. That's always helpful. Food donations, money donations. I mean, it all goes into play. But to answer your question, we're preparing for it as best we can by continuing to do what we always do and keep an eye on what the numbers are looking like going to our food distributions. We can kind of keep an eye on those and then check with, we have 2 SNAP representatives that work for us that sign people up for SNAP. And they're getting lots of calls from people that are concerned about their benefits decreasing and what may happen. So we're kind of using those 2 measures to be able to keep an eye on what's coming down the road. But it's just going to be a case of us having to continue to do what we always do. And that's not going to change regardless.
I have just one more question for you, Ms. Sweetlove.
Yes.
And I guess it's $1 million question, because how do you make this message resonate with those people who are unaffected? You know, like you said, the people who are sitting back and who are comfortable and, oh, that's somebody else's problem. How do you get those people to care about this?
Well, I think we have to tell stories like we're doing here. I think we have to tell stories that this is real, these are real people, that there's not a lot of fraud happening, that these are people needing these health care benefits, and these are people needing food because they've got children at home to feed. I think we have to tell that message again and again. You know, I have to do fundraising for the NAACP, and you have to tell folks that maybe don't even know what the 5 letters mean. You have to tell the story and tell them this is what we do, this is what we've been doing for 116 years, and this is what we'll continue to do as long as God gives us breath. That's what you have to do. You got to keep telling folks, because you'll be surprised sometimes where you'll get some support from if you take the time to tell a story. Yes, come on.
I just wanted to add that also for people who don't think that they're impacted, that they need to look at the consequences of this. And we will pay on one side or the other. And so if we're not paying right now to stop things from happening, if we think crime is bad now when people are struggling and concerned about being able to eat, being able to get health care, those things will go up and we will all be impacted. So if we care about crime, if we care about education, if we care about economic development, workforce development, all of us need to understand that whether we're employees, employers, these types of cuts will impact us all and will impact us as a community being able to move forward, because we will not be able to progress at all, and we will actually pay the cost as a community one way or another.
One question for you,
Yes.
Michaela, Action News 5. Can you just talk a little bit more about Medicaid and specifically how these cuts are going to impact Medicaid and those using it?
Well, a lot of people, there are a lot of people that have no other health care at all except for Medicaid. And if you ever go to the emergency room and you see that there are babies there from 2 months old to people that are 90, that are there needing help. And most of the time, those are the folks that need health care. And there's no other way about it. They need it. If I think about the pandemic and I think about the fact that were there not for vaccines, how many more people would have been devastated and died. And when I think about children, and I think about if children could not have gotten vaccines, then they could not have continued their education. They would have continued to have been sick or died. And guys, having COVID is just not COVID and it's gone. You know, we've got a young man in our church that was wonderful, strong, had no pre-existing condition, and now he's got long COVID and he can't walk 50 feet without having oxygen. So there are consequences to not having health care. And that's what we're talking about. And that's what Cardette talked about, the fact that if we don't do this, what will happen? And it's not just about us. It's about the greater good.
You're asking people to contact the senators, but I imagine your office and the NAACP has contacted Senators Blackburn and Haggerty. What are they saying about this to the NAACP?
You know how the messages read. We will continue to look at your issues, etc. You know how they read.
I do.
Yes, but we will continue. We're going to continue to be vigilant. We're going to continue to hold them accountable. And guys, you know, remind Blackburn that she thinks she want to run for governor, and we will remember.
Amen.
So you know, we have to. Yes, we keep on telling them. We keep sending emails. We keep sending letters. We keep making phone calls. It's important. I say again, it's important that you do phone calls because there's someone in every one of their offices that keep track of the number of phone calls that come in and about what issues. So it's important that we call and say we're calling because we are concerned about the reduction of budget for Medicaid and for SNAP. We are concerned that you got poor people that will not be able to get any health care. I mean, have you ever walked in with somebody that had no health care that in the emergency room? It's almost like you get ignored. And the other thing is, it's about closing hospitals. I live in Brownville, Tennessee. They shut our little hospital down forever. And now it's just got Park Care. You know, when I think about Wayne County, and I think about Stewart County, and I think about all those places around in East Tennessee and all, it's something to not have health care available for emergency within 50 miles. That's something. I saw his hand, yes.
My last question to you is, in those conversations you guys have had with, Blackburn or other, Congress individuals, what has been their response? Because it's one thing to send letters and have conversations. What has been their response, their rebuttal to any of this?
Well, that's what I was just saying to him. What they normally say is that we're continuing to look at this and we're continuing to look at what's needed in the state, and we're going to try to do what's best for the people. That's the response we get. But that's why we have to keep on calling. And that's why we have to keep on writing. So it is documented. My daddy said when you put it in writing, it's documented. It is documented that we said this is needed and we need you to step up.
And this is not an NAACP fight. This is a fight about all the citizens of Tennessee.
Yes.
From Memphis to Johnson City.
Yes.
The NAACP can't win this fight, but we're going to join with our brothers and sisters across this state and make them understand this is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is a people issue.
Yes.
And we must fight to the end.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Do you have contact information for the senators?
Yes, we do. We do. We have that, and we will. It is now on our website, but I don't know. Vicki and Daphne might even have something to pass out. So we do have contact information for them. Yes. Other questions? One more? Yes.
Could the gentleman that just spoke, could you remind me of his name, please?
Oh.
Kermit Moore, KERMITMOORE Jr.
And he is president of the Memphis branch.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. She says time. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you coming. We expect news reporters. Contact them, please. You all live in this state. Contact them. It's important.